have Chase Brook. He is the Agriculture and Natural Resources Extension Agent with the Collin County Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Office. And he's going to talk to us about benefits of that their program offers for landowners. Now, if you're a backyard beekeeper, you might not find this very interesting, but you know, we can't please all the people all the time. He's a graduate of A&M University, received a Bachelor of Science in Spatial Science, whatever that is.
It's real, I promise.
And a Master of Science.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. In Ecosystem Science and Management. He's a native of DFW area, previously worked in forestry, research, and higher education. His specialties lie in rangeland management, brush control, and prescribed fire, among other things. So this ought to be interesting. Let's welcome Chase.
All right. Thank you very much. All righty. Let's see. Do we got a clicker up here? Oh, ooh, it's a big. This is a clicker with authority. All right, so howdy. My name is Chase Brook. Thank you for that awesome introduction. I guess it would help if I pulled up my PowerPoint. No worries. And then that way you can see that I may have graduated from A&M, but I do know how to spell my name. So thank y'all very much for having me out tonight. I am coming into this. I know that the Hobby Beekeeper Association here in Collin County kind of covers everyone from, right in your backyards to, huge industries. And, with such a broad topic like that, I was just sitting and thinking, it's like, oh man, how am I going to focus all on this? And then at about 3 o'clock, the fire alarm went off in our office and ran me out, and I just sprinted out with my laptop and finished this PowerPoint elsewhere. And so you'll notice that, I'll apologize towards the very end. It starts getting a little bit thin as far as specific programs and opportunities, and that's just because I did not have internet access, and so I was doing a lot of it from memory, and we'll just get there. Now that I've apologized at the very front of my presentation, for those of you who are still students, you will learn in a speech class that you are not supposed to apologize before you talk. And so now you get to see a learning example. Again, I went to A&M, so that washes away many sins. All right, and so really, when I was building this talk, kind of the three things that are coming out is, first off, who am I? Who's this yokel in the cowboy hat standing up front, walking around all confident, right? Why am I here? Well, to talk to y'all, I hope. If you expected me to dance, you will be sorely disappointed. And then to talk a little bit about extension and some of the agencies and groups we work with here in the county that I believe can help provide a resource or service to y'all, whether that is technical assistance, someone to ask questions to. Maybe your normal source owes you $20 and you don't feel like talking to them. Well, maybe I can give you some other folks you can call. And then, just give you an idea of what's available out there that might not necessarily be commonly, wouldn't be the first thing on your mind. And just before I get too started on this, I always like to ask, how many of y'all have actually heard of extension before? Oh, good. I know probably through the Apiary Inspection Service mostly, or any number of other ways. So that's good. Usually I do not get that many hands raised, so that makes me happy, and that means I can skip a lot of slides and save some of y'all's time. So really, AgriLife Extension in Collin County, who am I? I'm that guy up there. That picture matches who you see in front here, with the beautiful picture of near the Eiffel Tower in Paris, Texas. I did go to A&M. They did give me a couple expensive pieces of paper that hang proudly on my wall. I've done a whole lot of things, been a whole lot of places, and while I might be the first to tell you that I am not the world's foremost honeybee expert, we do have 2 hives on our property that we managed to find some swarming, and we stuck them in a box, and they didn't run away or die. So, we've kept them alive for about 9 months now, and I guess, that's something. Yeah. And then so really getting, now that we've gone through all that, who am I, what's that guy? It's really what is extension. So as y'all may or may not know, cooperative extension is a nationwide program, and each state has a cooperative extension service. That service is done as a partnership between the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the state of, well, in this case, the state of Texas, through Texas A&M University and Prairie View A&M, and the counties of Texas. So here I am an employee of Collin County. See my name badge. I also have a state ID for my state employee part of me. And so we are office just downtown, just north of downtown off Highway 5, not even 10 minutes away from here. Come and visit. I'm usually there. If you want to, I will say, make an appointment if you really need to see me, because I'm in and out a lot. Fun fact, we have 254 counties in Texas. All of them are covered by 250 offices. If you are in far west Texas, far south Texas, or far east Texas, you might have to share an office, but that's okay. Texas is kind of big, so occasionally, Loving County, 170 people, it shares an extension office. Now, what do? We help improve Texans' lives, and we do that through providing educational opportunities and research-based information to help, encourage lasting and effective change. Again, how many, we have a whole bunch of extension agents in the office. I'm the one on top. We currently have 3 of those 5 positions filled, and those are in no real order. It was just, A goes first, I guess. But we also have an open horticulture spot. We do family and community health with health and nutrition, training. Better Living for Texas also is health and nutrition education. And then, of course, we have our 4-H program. Again, we have, I also oversee our master gardeners, our master naturalists, and they do a whole bunch of really good work that is, they put in 2018, almost 34,000 hours of volunteering. That is more hours than I work in a year by a long shot. And so they are, I always like to brag on my volunteers, and I know a couple of them are in here tonight because they're the folks who really help us make a difference. We also have 11 4-H clubs as of a couple months ago when I put that slide together with 355 kids. They do all sorts of stuff from raising livestock to competing in robotics and health and nutrition and a whole bunch of other things. All right. And going with kind of the lightning round part, because this isn't really what you're super interested in, but it's giving you a little bit of context. And you might be thinking, why is this agriculture guy talking to us? We're a hobby beekeeper association, right? Some of y'all might be a little more hobby than others, but that's okay. And the reason I'm here is because beekeeping is agriculture. Right, when we look at what agriculture is, that is producing a commodity, a food or fiber or other commodity for sale, right? Or home use, that's all right too. And, beekeeping is a big part of that, right? And whether you are Desert Creek Honey and you do tons of business over there, or maybe you sell a couple jars at a farmer's market or $5 to your neighbor, whatever it is you like to do, that is agriculture. And, ergo why I'm here talking. And for some of the services that I provide, here in Collin County, really fall under, information, right? Information and education. So I put on classes, I'll put on educational programs, I would say in-house. So like right now I'm in the middle of doing a Landowner 101 class series where we're teaching new landowners everything they need to know to keep their animals alive, to keep their property from getting overgrown by weeds, and to keep their fences and everything from falling in disrepair and losing their ag exemption, right? Because those are things that most people care about. And then I also do what I would call partner programs, and that's things like this, coming out and talking with groups and providing education outside of some of the programs that I plan. I also provide information and technical guidance. So people will call in, I get calls all the time. Everything from, hey, why does my Bermuda lawn look like it's dead? It's because it's been raining and a whole lot of other things. But that also goes all the way down to, livestock management, beekeeping. I get all sorts of questions, and my job, as I see it, is to basically help connect people with answers, right? I may not know everything. I will admit that I do not know everything, which, if you meet someone who knows everything, please send him my way, because I would have a lot of questions for him. But if I don't know something, my job is to help connect you with something who does, or someone who does, right? And whether that, if you have a question, a beekeeping question, I know some researchers down at A&M or other places that I can pick up the phone and call them, and if they don't pick up right away, they will return my phone call, right? And I can, I have a network of resources that I can tap to help you answer your question. And as I mentioned earlier, everything that I provide is going to be based in research and proven in field studies and trials, and unbiased, all that good stuff. And then I, aside from answering phone calls and emails, which sometimes feel like it sucks up way too much of my life, and we also do a lot of field visits, and so going out to people's properties, looking at what's going on, and helping them identify, hey, sometimes you might have a question that's a little more complex than sitting down in an office can necessarily answer, but maybe if I go out there, it's like, oh yeah, if you clear these trees back to here, that fence needs to be fixed before you can put cows on it, something like that. I also have a lot of people come into my office. Sometimes they come into my office and ask me, and we sit down and we want to talk about a new ag operation they're starting, and they want to learn how they can grow grapefruit in Dallas. And sometimes I have to tell them that that's probably not going to work out very well. And then point them towards maybe something that might be a little bit more fruitful, if you'll pardon the pun. And then finally, I do a lot of outreach and agriculture support. So whether that's sitting in on various committees in the county, visiting groups, talking at schools, etc., I'm here as a resource for people to come and talk to, or to have come talk to them. All right, and then here's just a whole bunch of stuff. It's basically other duties as required. And some stats about what we do, or what I do. I mean, since I started in August of 2018, almost coming up on 1 year in the county, and basically met about 2,100 people for a total of about 57,000, 21,000 people for about 27,000 hours over 30 events. Plus, I see a lot of people, I meet a lot of people. People apparently want to talk to me for a while, so that's good. Again, here's just an example of an in-house program, that Landowner 101 class series. It's been pretty successful, and that's not necessarily me throwing out my shoulder, patting myself on the back. That's just a good example of what I do day to day when I'm not going out and doing visiting talks. So I always like to do this part, as part of presentations, because inevitably when I tell people that I do agriculture in Collin County, a lot of people, around the state, I'm like, what? People farm in Collin County? Isn't it basically all just suburbs and houses from south to north? And it's like, not quite. That's actually a map of, what the Collin Appraisal District considers ag properties in Collin County. Notice they still exist. They're also color-coded, my undergrad, spatial science, maps, stuff like that. It actually comes in handy every once in a while. And so by the Collin Central Appraisal District, about 33% as of December 2018 was considered under ag use. And that is by ag exemption, not necessarily by ag operation. If we look at ag operations, which may not always have ag exemptions, then in 2017, the USDA found that that's actually closer to 50%. Now, given it's been a year, we all know how quickly Collin County is growing, so I figure it's probably somewhere in between. Call it, 35 to 40%. Once we get some better numbers, we can clear that up. Average property size, 25 acres, worth about $78 million of economic value. Again, that includes what y'all do. That, whenever you're selling ag commodities, that goes into that total. And I always put that in there because ag is still here, ag is still worth money, and we are still important, right? All of you are important, yes. And I work for the government, and you can put me down as saying that. And so again, here's just a pretty graph of that exact same number, right? So the top one is total farm revenues, and then we have, having it broken down, crops and livestock, and, total, again, 2017 was about $66 million in revenue. And then total number of farms, since in the last 25 years, we have pretty much almost doubled the number of farm operations and halved their average size. I always thought that was kind of like a cool inverse X. And then what do we produce? Wheat, corn, all those other stuff. Honey, for sure, especially once that became a viable ag exemption production method. We've seen a lot of interest in that, as evidenced by the number of people here and that are involved in this. And then a whole bunch of other stuff. All right, and now that's all the background, and basically you know who I am, why I'm here, why agriculture is important. Y'all are agriculture. Y'all contribute to this really big number that contribute to this really big number that basically says that agriculture is still very relevant in Collin County, right? And so really, I have a whole just kind of like a laundry list of different agencies and groups, right? You learned about extension. What do? I basically provide information, and any of these resources that are available, you're welcome to take pictures, email me. I can also give you contact information for each of these groups and people to talk to, as well as just this PowerPoint as a PDF if you want to hang it up on your wall, or keep it by your bedside table and read it before you go to sleep at night. Doesn't matter to me. And really, I like to start this off with our partners at the USDA. So they are groups that I work with very closely, and we have a lot of things that overlap and we work together on, and they have a lot of things available, programs and services available that I don't have. The general rule of thumb is I have a lot of publications, I have a lot of papers and information I can distribute, and people I can connect you with. What I do not have is funding for loans or cost share or anything like that. And so I gladly refer all of y'all to these USDA partners and others. The big three in the county are, and they're just on the other side of 380 from my office, are the Natural Resources Conservation Service, NRCS, the Farm Service Agency, FSA, and Rural Development, which I don't really abbreviate in casual conversation because that one's a little bit shorter. And basically these three groups make up what I would consider the backbone of our operational support for agriculture in the county, right? And I'll go into a little bit detail about what each of them are, what they provide, what they can do for you, and then how you can get a hold of them. Now, I'm going to start off with the NRCS, because if you look over here, they were on just first on the list, and so they get to go first. And you can see their beautiful logo on the side. And really they were started in the 1935 as the Soil Conservation Service, because if we all think back to history, back in grade school, we all remember about the Dust Bowl, except for some of you who might be not quite be there yet in your studies, in which case you will learn about the Dust Bowl, which is basically when we lost a whole lot of soil for a variety of reasons, due to over-farming, terrible drought, high winds, lack of cover on the soil, and basically the government said, look, we need to make sure that we can conserve this resource, and so the Soil Conservation Service was made. And really what they do is they work with our County Soil and Water Conservation District, as well as landowners and farm operators, to put in best management and conservation practices on the ground. They do that through technical assistance and financial assistance, and their big program is called EQIP. Again, I apologize. I wish I had more pictures. Unfortunately, lack of internet connection kind of killed me there. So you'll just have to put up with a bunch of text and probably staring at me move around. So EQIP, which again, for those of you who can spell, you realize that we're missing a U, but that's okay. It's the Environmental Quality Incentives Program. And basically, the goal of EQIP is to provide financial and technical assistance to producers in the county, and these are specifically aimed at certain practices that deliver environmental benefits, right? And so that's everything from planting cover crops, so You might think, okay, in the winter when our warm season grasses are dormant, for those of you who've been in Texas for a while, you realize we have two different seasons of plants. We have our warm season plants that generally live during the summer and then they die off, and then in the wintertime we have a whole new set of weeds that get to come up and we get to deal with. And for those of you who are new to Texas, you will quickly find out that half the year your lawn will be brown, and that is okay. And so that's putting in cover crops, that's putting in interior fencing, and I know a lot of y'all are thinking, well, interior, trying to put in fencing on the inside of my property to keep my bees in is going to be a little bit difficult, and I would agree. And I don't know that they cover bee fencing, but what they do cover is, the main one again is that cover crops. And when I say cover crops, that's putting in a off-season plant for to keep something on top of the soil to keep it from migrating away, because once soil gets off your property, it pretty much does not come back, and it's kind of a precious resource. I mean, some of y'all may wish that the gumbo clay would go away and you would never see it again. I'm sorry, it goes down so deep until you hit caliche, in which case you'll probably wish you had the gumbo clay back. But those cover crops in particular include plants that are good for honeybees. Right, so we're talking about clovers. We're talking about various native forbs, wildflowers, stuff like that. So it doesn't, when you're putting in these cover crops, they can be cover crops that are beneficial to honey production. Right, these don't have to be mutually exclusive. And if you're already looking at doing something like that, maybe say you have a couple acres and some cattle or something. Hopefully you have more than a couple acres for a couple cattle, but you can put in a cover crop in the off season to make sure that you got some ground cover, because they're going to be trumping and they're going to be eaten, and we want to make sure that they have something to eat and something to keep our soil where it stays. Let's see, and really, another important part of this is that this EQIP funding is determined by y'all. Maybe not specifically in the more general y'all, but this is something that every year the Soil and Water Conservation District, which I will cover in a minute in case, so just hold on, don't get too excited. They do a local work group meeting every year where landowners are invited to come in, sit down, and basically fill out a survey of what are the biggest conservation issues in the county. Then those get ranked along with management practices that are important to those, and then that is basically the priority list for what EQIP funding does. So if we have a whole bunch of people come in and they say that, oh my gosh, we're losing all of our soil, it's getting eroded away and going into Levon Lake and filling it up, then maybe they will say, okay, then that is a top priority and we want to fix that by putting in cover crops. And enough people do that, and then when those results get tallied, then cover crops comes on one, and then when they look at all the EQIP applications they get, the ones that are targeted towards soil erosion management by using cover crops will get funded first. So if that's something you believe strongly in, keep in touch, because we'll let you know, and then that's when you get to provide your 2 cents in all of this. Let's see, I'm probably going to power through this. I should have mentioned this earlier. I'm just going to I'm going to chug through this because I know this is not always the most mentally stimulating information in the world. I'm doing my best. All right, I'm going to try, and then I'll take any questions at the end, and I'll be available in the back as well once they rip the microphone away from me. And so next is, we got the NRCS, now we're talking about the Farm Service Agency, which does exactly as you would think. It helps provide services for farms. And again, when we think about what is a farm operation, it is any operation that is working in agriculture. And we already discussed how beekeeping and honey production are agriculture, ergo this fits. I took logic in college. So, and really what they do is they help provide, in a nutshell, loans, insurance, and a couple other safety net programs for our ag producers, right? And they have a big long list that's a lot longer than this, but these are the main programs that apply to y'all. right? Because it wouldn't make sense for me to come up here and talk about dairy cattle programs to a beekeeper association. I know at least that much. And so really when we're looking at the farm programs, we're looking at what they call the ELAP program, which has a longer name because of course it's a government program, so it's abbreviated and then elongated. And then we have what are called marketing assistance loans. I say we in the sense that they provide it. I don't. And then on the other side of things, we have the farm loans. So those are the USDA microloans and then farm ownership loans. Excuse me. So that ELAP program is short for Emergency Assistance for Livestock, Honeybees, and Farm-Raised Fish. Now of those, I'm pretty sure only the honeybees apply unless you have cattle or farm-raised fish as well, in which case that also fits under this umbrella. But basically what that program does is it helps pay for losses due to disease, adverse weather, and certain adverse weather and conditions. So that's wildfires, that's tornadoes, etc., and includes colony collapse disorder. I double-checked. I read the fine print, I looked on that handout, and that did include it. Now there will be some verification and other steps involved because of course this is a government, it's not always straightforward, but there is a process and that is covered. I will say if you have specific questions about this, I would highly encourage you to please reach out to our local FSA office. They are the experts on this. They can get you the answers you want and get you enrolled as you wish. And so in 2017, broadly, they issued $2.7 million in claims for disaster losses like this. And the other big deal is their marketing assistance loan program. And basically what that is when you have a big harvest, you have a lot of that going on the market and prices depress, right? So, economics, you have a high supply, your price is going to go down. Now what this does is this loan is specifically meant to help store and carry over some of your product to later in the season when the supply starts trailing off and the prices are going back up, right? So maybe, instead of selling for and these numbers are off the cuff. You can really tell I'm not a beekeeper because I'm about to say, if it's $5 for a pound of honey right now, and, see, I'm already getting, it's like, you're way off base, come on. But I'm going to stick with it. But if it was $5 a pound, because that would be just a catastrophic price, let's say, but you know that if you just hang on for 3 months, or maybe 4 months, price is going to be $15 a pound. That's what this program is meant to help you store that product for, right? Again, if you have quite specific questions about this, I will do my best. The Collin County Farm Service Agency office, I'm going to flash their contact info up here. They are the ones to contact about that. And then, so not less on the programs, more on the loans. So really, I had a conversation with the USDA loan manager for the area today, and the last slide is all out of our office here in McKinney. The loans are actually through the office out of Bonham in Fannin County. And, when we're talking, and basically, so what the USDA loans are for is to provide a source of financial credit for people who would not necessarily be able to get credit through traditional commercial lending, right? Either due to down payment requirements or other things. This provides an avenue for people to start up farms or to finance them. Typically, and these are in order for a reason, right? So first we have our USDA micro loan program. For each of these, there's this whole application process that is, outside of my realm of expertise, I shall put it. But this microloan program does not necessarily require previous farm or ranch experience. It can provide up to $50,000 for operating expenses, equipment, starting hives, additional hives, or livestock. I consider bees livestock, so be it. And other things. Now, the reason this is important is because this is typically used to build experience for a farm ownership loan, right? Now the farm ownership loan, the reason that's a deal is that requires 3 years of farm or ranch management experience. So, and that can be shortened if you are a honorably discharged veteran, that shortens it by 1 year. And if you have managed a business, that shortens it by 1 year. But they still want to see that you have experience running a farm or ranch of some sort, before they'll issue you the loans. And there's a whole lot more information on this. If you Google these, you can find probably more fine print documents than you can shake a stick at. But I'm just here to tell you that they exist. If that is something that you are interested in, these might be beyond the scope of having a couple hives in your backyard. But if you're thinking about going big, or maybe you're being really successful and you want to try expanding your operations or going into something like that, this might be one way to do it. And then kind of the third leg on the three-legged government stool is rural development. And they do all have their own individual logos. And really what they do is they provide loans, grants, and funding, or loan guarantees to create jobs and support rural economic development. Right? And when we look again at our honey production, honey ag production, we have two programs that they provide. It is the Value Added Producer Grant and the Rural Energy for America program. Both of these are available to apply for as an ag producer or a business. Again, I was on the phone with them. They define an ag producer as someone who gets the majority or more than 50% of their income from agriculture. Otherwise, if you are incorporated as a business, you qualify as a business. And they're also based out of our McKinney office here. So the Value Added Producer Grant is exactly like it sounds. If you are producing honey and say you wanted to develop a value-added product, so maybe you want to have honey-laced gym socks, and that was your thing because they're great for your feet, then this would help you buy the equipment and the help with the marketing and advertisement and everything to create your new value-added product. So, there are some limitations on what this can and cannot be used for, but this is a way to help leverage a new value-added, or value-added product to your deal. It does require 50% match of the costs, so be prepared for that. And it covers up to $75,000 for a planning grant and $250,000 for working capital grants. That is copied from the website. If you ask me precisely what the difference between the two are, I will give you a very blank stare, and then please kindly ask, and I will kindly ask you to go call them. And then the second one is the Rural Energy for America program, right? So this is guaranteed loan financing and grant funding for agricultural producers or rural small businesses for renewable energy systems or energy efficiency improvements. And there's a whole number of these renewable energy deals. It goes everything from solar to geothermal to wind and all sorts of other stuff. You probably can't get nuclear. That would probably be a little outside the scope of this in terms of funding and regulation. But there's a whole bunch of different opportunities there if that's something you were looking to do. Maybe, again, if you are going big and you want to put in some solar panels, this might be a way to do it. And when I was on the phone with them, they also wanted me to stress the efficiency improvements, adding insulation, putting in more efficient lighting, etc. They said that they get there's a lot of interest and so on, and the energy efficiency improvement side of it. And so the loans have a $5K minimum, $25 million maximum, which is, that's a pretty big variance. And then the grants have a $2.5K minimum, $500K maximum with a 75% match if you're applying for a grant only. All right. And so now we're starting to step out of the USDA and into other groups. So our county also has a soil and water conservation district, which is, SWCD number 535, if you like a little trivia, and they are our county partners in working with the NRCS and implementing watershed conservation programs focused on improving water quality and quantity. And so, fun fact, they also help maintain all of or are responsible for maintaining all the flood control structures in the county. So I was speaking with some of y'all earlier who mentioned you have this flood control lake on your property. These are the people who manage that and come and mow it hopefully once a year, maybe more depending. Now they are officed out of our county NRCS office, and if you call the NRCS number, they pick up the same phone as well. And so basically what they do is they have a program that is, for landowners in the Lavon Lake, it's not a shake, it's a lake, the Lavon Lake watershed. You put in some work to create a water quality management plan, and you implement certain best management practices. There are some financial cost-sharing incentives that you can take advantage of. These do stack with the NRCS equip funds, but they have to be used for different activities. So if you got an NRCS equip grant for clearing brush, you could not use this water quality management plan money or this Lavon Lake partnership money to go and do clear brush, but maybe you could use that to put in a cover crop or something like that. And then so for all of the USDA and the Soil and Water Conservation District information, here it is. You can take a picture. You can also give me a phone call or Google it or any number of other ways. The information is out there. There are a number of extensions up there. And then for the farm loan questions, contact David Dumon Dumont at the Fannin County FSA office at that phone number on the bottom. And I see no more people taking pictures with their phones, so I'm going to keep going. And then just a couple other different groups that you may not necessarily know provide resources or assistance. Texas Parks and Wildlife has a number of grants and programs available to landowners. Again, some of this stuff is, maybe you're clearing out a bunch of brush and you're, looking for someone, to see if there's a program you could take advantage to cost share on it, or, you wanted to put in a scenic bluebonnet patch, just upwind from your hives, who knows? There's some different groups available. We also have a local Parks and Wildlife biologist who also can help do field visits and some surveying and stuff like that to help you go look at what wildlife is on your property and to help you manage them. Then we have Texas Department of Agriculture, so famously known for maintaining all the pesticide licenses and stuff like that. But they're also the ones who run the Go Texan program. So all the food labeling, the Made in Texas stuff like that, they're the ones who manage that. And so if you are looking at marketing, maybe you want to get something on your label for your product, they're the ones to go to. And they also have a number of other grants and funding programs. I realize you cannot click on this right here, and it's inconvenient to type on your phone. In the back, I do have a packet. All the URLs are in there, as well as on our county website. A&M Forest Service, again, they are a different part of the A&M system. One of our sister agencies, they're focused more on forest and wildfire management. We do have an urban forester based out of Dallas, who, if you have questions, can come and look. And I know that bees are not trees, but he's there. And they also have a bunch of funding programs, just depending on where you are and what you have going on. You might qualify, and I'm all about giving you more opportunities to learn about free money out there than not. So basically, now that we've gone through a whole bunch of PowerPoints that are more text than pictures and more boring government information than you probably normally want to get in an evening, here's basically a summary. My job is help you find information and resources, right? Collin County has a lot of different groups with a lot of different programs. If you have any questions or you want to know what's available, you can always call me. And everything in this PowerPoint is on our county extension website, collin.agrilife.org. And I can actually pull that up here in a minute, but what I'd like, I guess what I would like to, if you can leave with anything, just know that I'm here as a resource for y'all. Whether you have 1 acre, whether you have 10,000 acres, I'm here to help you answer your questions, right? And I might not know everything, but I typically know people who do, or at least know something related to what you want to know. And with that, I will answer any questions. Yeah.
My residence is in Collin County. My property is a mile just off the county line in Grayson County. Will you assist for that area of Grayson County?
So that's a really good question because, her question was if she lives in Collin County, but her property is just on the other side of the county line, can I still help you? Or can I still help you? The answer is yes, asterisk. Or the standard extension answer of it depends, right? So yes, I can help you, right? Now what I would recommend and say is that, and Grayson, Collin, less, more so, the farther you go, the less I'm able to help you just because it's so different ecologically, right? So if you have a property out in, Midland, Odessa area, maybe it's more of an oil lease or something, I don't know. That's starting to get far enough out of my zone and realm of knowledge that I would recommend that you call that local extension office because, again, we have 250 offices that cover 254 counties. So regardless of where that property is, there's someone you can call. Now, in the case here, I would also say that, we have a great extension agent in Grayson County now, Marshall Tollison. I would, and if you had specific questions about your property and things that pertain to Grayson County in particular, like ag valuations, property taxes, stuff like that, I would send you to him because property ag exemption is different in every county. The only exceptions are beekeeping and wildlife. So at least on the beekeeping stuff, I'm fairly confident that I can help you. But I would always say check with that specific appraisal district. Did that answer your question? All right. Anyone else? Anyone ready for me to get off the stage so y'all can go and go to bed? Yes, sir.
What about leasing property?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have lease agreements?
So asking if us and Extension have like a template lease agreement that you could use. That's a really good question. I do not know. I don't necessarily think so, but what I would say, if you're interested in that, email me. We do have a agriculture law specialist, Dr. Tiffany Lajmet. She's based out of Lubbock, and I could email her and see if she does have anything like that. Generally speaking, when it comes to leases, just as a product of this day and age, I always recommend that you get lease agreements in writing. That being said, verbal lease agreements are actually legally binding, but when it comes down to brass tacks, and particularly if you have to go to the appraisal district and you have a lease, it's really nice and convenient to be able to bring it with you and show them that, look, here's the lease. Did that answer your question?
Yeah. I have land in Hunt County.
Mm-hmm.
And they only allow a maximum of 20 acres. Do they do that in Collin County?
For the beekeeping?
For beekeeping.
Yes, so again, and that goes back to the only standard ag valuation is beekeeping and wildlife across the state, and so that minimum 5, maximum 20 acres is statewide. And that's regardless of if you're in Collin County, Hunt County. I mean, I would always say check with the appraisal district because, again, I'm an extension employee, not an appraisal district employee, not in the lease for Hunt County, and so it always helps to have an open line of communication with them long before any deadlines are looming. All right, yes, sir.
Some counties, if you build a house, they count 1 acre for that, and then they take the exemption away from the other 4 acres.
So that, so, and yeah, and so that is, again, that's an appraisal district question. What I can say is, again, talk to your appraisal district, and depending on where you are, you might be able to make a case for it or not. Because typically that 1 acre is your homestead exemption rather than your ag exemption. And that can change your property setup. And I think, and again, this is my understanding and all that, but
I think it's different, the 5 acre and 20 acre, I think is applied differently based on the county.
and that might, and that might be the case because each appraisal district might interpret it differently, and then therefore you have different applications. I'm not going to necessarily speculate on any particular reasons why, simply because I really like my job and I don't want to be caught in any sort of quagmire, just to be frank. But yeah, and that's probably the case. Anyone else? Oh, yes, ma'am. Yes. So in July and August, so all our events, I'll start off, all our events, you can find it on our county extension website and on our Facebook page. I post them all on there to try to keep it easy. I also put them out through newsletters. I have a monthly newsletter. You're welcome to sign up for it if that's the kind of thing you enjoy. But those 2 specific classes, the one in July is on Friday, and then the one in August, I believe, is on the 12th, which is, I think, the 2nd Friday or 3rd Friday in August. Yes, ma'am. So they are 1-day morning classes. The idea being that, on a Friday morning, you sit there from 8 to noon, and we bring in a bunch of speakers to cover a bunch of different topics to basically give you we're coming into this Landowner 101 class with the assumption that you are new to owning property or new to a certain kind of operation. And so we're bringing in experts to give you the information you need to start asking the right questions. This isn't, if we wanted to talk about beef cattle, I'm going to a week-long beef cattle course that will still probably not teach me everything I need to know. But in this class series, we're trying to connect our students with the basic information and where they can go to get more later on.
You said the August one was Saturday?
They're both on Friday mornings. I know it's just a matter of when I can get speakers, and I do cater it. We do provide food for y'all. Last couple times it's been a chicken fried something because, after that much thinking, you need a little energy. But yeah, and again, so go on our website, you'll be able to find all our class information for those programs. We're also planning a prairie tour in September and a bunch of other programs aside. Yes, sir, in the back?
So if you look at your extension documents, and let's say the formula works out that you have to have 6 hives in your property. I'm not talking about what that formula is. Say it has 6. The question I have is, I've heard different rulings from different counties. If you have to have ag exemption for 5 years, do you have to have 6 hives every year starting on year 1, or do you have to have 6 hives on year 5?
So I'm going to connect you with the answer I gave this gentleman over here. That interpretation can vary by county and how that is applied. And I would encourage you to visit with that appraisal district and see how they